You are listening to a recording from the Cooperating to Build a Better Nova Scotia conference in Halifax, a celebration marking the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives.
Here we are, several days, months, years, maybe it seems like, into the conference. The conference is over. It officially ended a few minutes ago. I could ask something like, how's your life different now than it was Thursday morning? But that's a really hard question to answer. But we're here with the conference organizers, Leslie and Joe. What are your thoughts just off the top of your head at the moment?
Mark, do you want to?
Yes. Mark Sparrow. I'm co-chair of the conference coordinator. That's fine. With also work with the Nova Scotia Co-op Council, and I'm here with Leslie Brown, the co-chair for the conference. And really, we couldn't be happier. The conference has gone probably even better than we had hoped, and I think the outcomes are going to be substantial. We had a visioning session this morning, and we had way more people at that session than we had anticipated would show up on a Saturday morning after an open mic pub night. But they were there, and the ideas were flying, and so we're not just after having come to a conference, we're leaving with something that we can kind of build on around cooperation and collaboration. So overall, I couldn't be more happy, and let's see if Leslie agrees.
No, not at all. Oh, yes, I just want to echo what Mark said, and as you were saying, it sometimes felt like a very long time, but it was a long time of working together with people who are superb. So the other thing about this morning, that we really wanted some action, and you know how difficult it is in a conference. We've got people, especially this kind of conference, diverse in all sorts of different ways. So to come together and say, all right, are there a few things that we can work on? And Amanda Hashi did a superlative job building up to this day and giving us some direction and some things we could work with. And we have, 8 to 10 pretty concrete kinds of things that people have committed to follow through. We've got lists of names, so even if half of those are able to come forward, it would be really an achievement. And the other thing that was neat, I think, about this morning is as Mark said, we had the attendance, but we also had the attendance from the different groups. So we had a huge youth input there. We had the veterans of the co-op movement. We had, all sorts of different peoples there. So you feel like it did represent the conference. So yes. And having Ivan back here, who was part of and Fred. Yeah, so we'll talk about Fred later. But Ivan was part of the Social Economy Network, so he would recognize some of these figures as well.
Yep, it's almost like coming home, yes. So this 2012 was the International Year of the Cooperative. I'm not sure how you're going to top this. I mean, you still got a month and a week to go. So do you think, how have things changed in this year? Has there been more awareness of cooperatives? Has, what's happened over the past 11 months that might make cooperatives different in 2013 than they were in 2011?
Well, it's an interesting opportunity, the International Year of Co-ops, and it's one that we really needed to seize on as a co-op sector and as a co-op movement, and take this massive recognition that we've got at a global level and see what we can do with it here on our level, here in the province of Nova Scotia. So there have been events going on all throughout the year. We kicked off the year on January 12th as part of a national launch for the International Year of Co-ops for Canada, and we had been the only province in Canada that attracted the attention of our Premier. So Premier Darrell Dexter did show up at our event, and that was a bit of a feather in our cap as far as kudos to the sector and what we're doing, what we've accomplished. But also, we've got to think now, where are we going? There was an analogy, I think it was Alain Waugh, that said we need to poke the bear. And this kept coming up today because, the co-op credit union sector is large, it's active, it's meeting people's needs, but, we're being challenged with how do we make this bigger and better and more fierce than it is. So, we're poking the bear, and I think that today's session and the entire conference was maybe the end or the prod on the stick of poking the bear, and we'll see what comes from here, but quite optimistic, and from the perspective of the Co-op Council and on behalf of our members, the co-ops across Nova Scotia, I think we'll see much more awareness raising like we've seen throughout this year, co-ops working more with of co-ops to meet objectives and to meet their common goals. But hopefully just more people know the model exists, and that if they're forming a group, you're forming a community organization, you're forming a business, then you should be aware that you don't only have the option of sole proprietorship, partnership, or corporation. There's another option, and it's a co-op option. And we know it works. So that being said, I'll hand it back now.
2013 is the International Year of Rest and Relaxation, isn't it, after this?
You think? It has been a year of conferences, and in fact, one of our sessions, which I believe was broadcast, was the one where people talked about some of the many conferences that happened internationally. I think from the academic perspective, from the perspective of the universities, we had really good participation again with that, and most of us are involved in collaborative research. The Measuring the Cooperative Difference Research Network was one of the sponsors of this work, and I think we have a lot of ideas for future collaborations that have come out of it as well, and more invitations to conferences. But the other dynamic that we won't know a lot about right away is the community radio dynamic, and the participation seemed to be quite extraordinary from here. I kept seeing Charlene and other people walking around with microphones, and people seemed very pleased to be asked to speak, and there was recording. And I just want to say that for anybody who's listening or who's part of the webcast, there will be material available on the Nova Scotia Co-op Council website for where the conference website is. So you can just go there, and you can just Google it, or it's Nova Scotia. Yeah, with no hyphen. So novascotia.coop, and give us a month or so. I mean, it is almost December, but we'll get that material up so people can have access to it. And we do have PowerPoints in French and in English, and we've had participation from a different type of community radio, francophone, and so that again is a layer that we're excited about, and we hope that the people who are listening and have ideas and are contributing in various ways will get to listen to them, because it's being made into MP3s and so on, and so those of us who've been here will be able to hear what other people have contributed.
Have you chosen the dates for next year's conference yet?
You know what? I couldn't imagine organizing another conference like this next year. But what I could imagine is that we may have come out of this, and I've heard a few people mention, is the opportunity to do something like this, in whether it's biannually, but also it maybe would be more specific to certain sectors. So, for example, maybe we would in 2 years' time have a food security agricultural co-op conference, and maybe 2 years from that we'll have a healthcare, home care cooperative conference, targeted more around specific areas that cooperatives are known to respond to. So we may see that. I don't know that Leslie and I are jumping on a steering committee tomorrow to begin chairing those conferences, but somebody should do it, and maybe we'll just make sure that it happens, not necessarily take the wheel. But no, it has been a very positive experience from the organizational perspective.
The government has been so involved, and one of the ideas at one of the action committees today was to have one more step, believe it or not, in this 2012 legacy for the Nova Scotia Co-op Council. So stay tuned. But it won't be Mark and I. We'll take a little bit of a break and get back to the rest of our lives. But yes, I think there might be something happening in January or February to keep an eye on.
If you were to decide to do a sector of co-op related to media, I mean, there are newspapers that are co-ops, radio, and other things.
A media co-op that did a poster, which we'll be putting. Halifax Media Co-op. Yeah,
it would be an interesting sector. I'm sure we'd be there for sure.
And I having heard people's reactions to community radio, I think there might be an appetite for, instead of attaching it to a conference, having a community radio radio event, and could be in the valley, it could be some other part of Nova Scotia where people want to get engaged, but make it a real community experience that isn't necessarily just about cooperatives, but it's about the community, about community building, about the kinds of things that particular community wants to talk about, and build that kind of energy and cohesion. I think this media is amazing that way.
Well, let's just end on that self-serving note for community radio. Mark Sparrow and Leslie Brown. You have one more thing you want to do, and I'm sure people want to shake hands with you and kiss you goodbye, but here's your...
Okay. So we would very much like to, at this point in time, show our thanks to Ryakuga for all of the help and assistance and many, many hours of planning and time that they've put into making community radio happen here at the conference. So on behalf of Leslie and I'd like to present Fred Campbell with a gift here, and we have one for Charlene Gagnon as well, although I don't see her around at the moment. So we'll have something for her as well. But Leslie and I?
Can I say something on radio?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Fred wants to talk. Okay. Well, there you go. Thanks, Fred.
I'm really pleased that we were here. And I think that it's kind of like, from an idealistic point of view, it's we're not really community radio, we're really participatory communications, right? And somehow it's participatory communications and the cooperative movement are like they're two sides of the same coin. And I just have my speech ready here, but it's the basic principles of participatory communications, right? And I think it like kind of fits in, right? So one is like all the voices, everybody, collaboration, inclusion, positive mirroring of ourselves and what we're doing, and the last one is youth power, and how much have we heard that, right? So I mean, those are, and this was done a long, long time ago. So I find that the partnership that we've been engaged in the last few days is very natural and works very well.
That's great. We
agree. And the weather was so fine, and this is kind of nice the way it's ending on this little misty, warm spell, right? But yeah, I think it was like a marvelous thing.
Yeah. And of course, there was a youth committee that worked a lot on the participatory community radio.
I just had a long conversation with a young woman from Port Hood who had just discovered all this, and she was like very interested.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I think for the student body walking back and forth, yes, it's been merveilleux. Yes.
All right. Are we signing off?
So I guess we
have to say bye-bye.
Oh, we have to say goodbye.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Until the next time.
Yes. Tune into ryakuga.ca and follow Ryakuga on Twitter as well.
Exactly.
And all of the co-op links and accounts that you can find.
Au revoir, tout le monde.
Okay. Thank you.